Hello there. On this coming Monday, it is going to be the birthday of Mr. George Clinton, founder of Parliament, Funkadelic, and a whole bunch of other projects, and a major influence on 90s hip hop, where James Brown was a humongous influence on 1980s hip hop. But anyway, George Clinton has such a huge, storied history on so many labels. It's so complicated. I know this is directed toward George Clinton admirers, and there's a lot of history. But I'm just going to show you my collection here. That's what I'm going to show you and how I got into it. Now, what happened was, when I first started getting into funk music, the CDs of Parliament and Funkadelic were just coming out. So I'm going to start out with Funkadelic. Now, just for those of you who are not in the know, Parliament and Funkadelic are the exact same band. The exact same band. The thing is that early on, due to label problems, they had to actually use separate names. And actually, Parliament came first. They were the Parliaments, but anybody who knows about George Clinton already know about the Parliaments. So anyway, this is these are most of these, actually all of these, are first generation Funkadelic CDs, meaning they're not the newer remasters. These were reissued between 1989 and 1993, so they're kind of primitive. This is the first Funkadelic album from 1970. Their first three albums are very acid rock, psychedelic oriented. Emphasis on the delic. That's a key to their early music. Very close to Jimi Hendrix and things like that. Here's the band at that particular time. Because they're using a heavily contrast color scheme picture, I can't exactly tell which one of them is George, if he's even pictured there at all. Because their eyes are all kind of blanked out from that. I love the red CD cover. My favorite song is I Got a Thing, You Got a Thing, Everybody's Got a Thing. It's built on some amazing wah-wah, but this is from 1970, and this is Funkadelic's introduction to the world. This is their second album, Free Your Mind, and I don't want to get deleted from YouTube, but this could have a double meaning. Free your mind and your ass will follow. You open it up. Very sensual gatefold here. The title song of this album actually begins with some recited Bible verses. Free your mind and your ass will follow. The kingdom of heaven is within. And somehow it isn't blasphemous. Funky Dollar Bill is my favorite song from this album. They actually do some really straight ahead 12-bar blues on Some More. Kind of sounds like John Mayall or something like that. There's a great picture inside of them too. There's the CD. It's got kind of a high contrast picture of the cover. There's the band in their early costumes with all the boas and everything. Now this is Maggot Brain. This is a very iconic album from Funkadelic. As you can see, it's very primitive Westbound issue. Liner notes, but not much on pictures. This actually has a famous back cover where the band are standing around the ruins, but it's not included on this one. This album, America Eats Its Young, is a rather political album. As you can see, it has a picture of the Statue of Liberty, a demonic Statue of Liberty, eating children of many nationalities. Very political. This came out around the time of Watergate, Nixon, and all of that. And there's a song on here called Joyful Process, which actually I think is one of the earliest Funkadelic songs to have horns. And Loose Booty is on here as well. This is the first album where William Bootsy Collins became really heavily involved with Funkadelic on what was originally a double album, but it's on one CD. This is the first Funkadelic album I ever bought and ever heard. This is Cosmic Slop. I love the song Nappy Dugout on this, and I think this is the first of the Pedro Bell artwork. Nice looking CD there. Here's the back of it. Very influential he was trying to create a whole mythos and metaphysics for P-Funk. I don't even know if they had the name P-Funk at that time, but this is a wonderful album. This is one of my favorite Funkadelic albums of all time, standing on the verge of getting it on. Alice in My Fantasies, as I was telling a friend the other day, actually reminds me a lot of Whole Lotta Love by Led Zeppelin. But one of the songs I love on here is a recreation of Red Hot Mama and the title song. We'll get into that a little bit later. And Jimmy's got a little bit of bitch in him. Kind of a Frank Zappa-ish take on homosexuality. And one of the lyrics in that goes, "So why frown? Even the sun goes down." I love George's wit. This is 1975. Let's take it to the stage. By this point, George Clinton was operating Parliament and Funkadelic, so their sounds were just beginning to merge a little bit. There's a lot of Bootsy on this album. Good to Your Ear Hole, Better by the Pound, and we all know the title song, very James Brownish. Get Off Your Ass and Jam. Stuffs and Things, and Bernie Worrell does the instrumental Atmosphere on this, on organ and harpsichord and all that. There's the inside of it. Now, this particular album merges funk and rock very seamlessly. You know, it's not all rock, it's not all funk, it's actually one of their most well-rounded records, one of my favorites. This is actually one of my very favorite Funkadelic albums. I know it all comes from different points and it's kind of an anthology, but I love this one, Tales of Kid Funkadelic. It has the Undisco Kid on it, which is a song that a lot of people say, hey, that sounds like Parliament without horns. Again, same band, thank you very much. You open it up and there's more stuff. There's the CD, and this, the actual band members, is rendered by Pedro Bell. More liner notes inside that. Now, after this, well, this was actually released later, Funkadelic went over to Capitol and recorded Hardcore Jollies. This album has a great song on it called If You've Got Funk, You've Got Style. This is a little bit more of a rockier album than some of their Westbound stuff. But, you know, Capitol were trying to figure out what to do with Funkadelic at this point. There's actually ads in here for Funkadelic items. Keep in mind, this was reissued in the 90s during the Horde and all that kind of business, so since been reissued again, but this is from the first issue in 93. One Nation Under a Groove. Everybody knows that very well. Thank you, Dr. Dre, of course. You know, everybody knows this song very well. There's some other great songs on it that I really love, like Charlie, Fun Get Ready to Roll, and, you know, over the years, I have really warmed up to something like Lunch Meatophobia, which is very, very guitar rock oriented. But they say this is the Funkadelic album to get if you haven't gotten any. I don't know about that because it came with this comic book. See up here it says Punkadelic. This is actually quite a bit rockier an album for them. This is a very primitive reissue of Uncle Jam Wants You from 1979. Again, a rockier album, but it contains not just Knee Deep, their 15-minute opus. Another one of those Parliament without horns kind of songs. Philippe Wynne from the Spinners, who was also part of P-Funk at this point, is on Knee Deep as well. One of the Funkadelic masterpieces, and one of the masterpieces of the year in general. And also there's a song called Freak of the Week, which I really like. This is released on Charlie Groove. It's not anything to do with the Westbound or the Capitol reissues, but I get it anyway. Okay! Now, here's a little history. This is the Electric Spanking of War Babies, their last official Capitol album from 1981, recorded in 1980, pared down from a double album. Now, if you look at this cover, this was the original issue, and this was the original cover that George Clinton wanted for it, but the Capitol censors did not want to release this album, so they put this big green blob on it, and there was a little writing on the bottom saying, look, there's the cover they were too scared to print. But this is the original cover. I take it this is pretty rare now. Okay, there's the one. This is the cover that most people get. Oh, look, the cover they were too scared to print. It's still underneath that whole big thing, but that's the cover this came with. So I'm very happy I got the version with the original cover. Great album, one of their best. Really, really raggedy, especially for the early 80s. But any album that has Electro Cuties on it, and OI, oh, fantastic. Ickle Prick reminds me a lot of Prince at that time, but it's also a great song for this album. Now, this is theoretically not a Funkadelic album, but it might as well be. It's got all the same people. It's on the Westbound label. This is the original album. Now, what happened was, this album was released on another label under the name of Urban Dance Floor Gorillas. And this is the P-Funk All-Stars Hydraulic Funk. The way George had originally intended this album to be. Intros and all. And it has... Hydraulic Pump is an absolutely brilliant song. Just having it for that is amazing, and Pumping It Up is too. So that ends my collection for Funkadelic. Next up, Parliament.